For 75 years, NATO has stood as the cornerstone of Western military power, a pact forged in the ashes of World War II, a shield against Soviet expansion, a symbol of collective strength. But today, that shield is splintering. Beneath the surface of unity lie deep cracks, political, strategic, and ideological. From Turkey's unpredictable maneuvers to Hungary's obstructionism, from European complacency to American fatigue, from internal distrust to rising external threats. In this episode of the Watchtower Report, we examine the unraveling of the world's most powerful alliance. This is NATO fractures, the collapse of collective defense. Because the next war may not be lost on the battlefield, it may be lost before it ever begins. NATO's promise versus today's reality. When NATO was founded in 1949, its mission was simple. An attack on one is an attack on all. The Article 5 guarantee was unprecedented. It turned 12 countries into a single military mind. Over the decades, NATO grew. It integrated former Warsaw Pact nations, expanded to the Baltics, and eventually absorbed Finland. It became a global force for stability. But stability is not the same as readiness. Today, NATO has 32 members. But do they share a mission, a threat perception, a commitment to act? In theory, yes. In practice, the fractures are growing. The Turkey question. No NATO member has caused more strategic headaches than Turkey. Under President Erdogan, Ankara has purchased Russian S-400 missile systems despite NATO objections, blocked Sweden's membership bid for months, threatened Greek territorial sovereignty, attacked Kurdish forces supported by NATO partners, held back defense decisions in Brussels to extract concessions. Turkey remains vital. It controls the Bosporus, hosts US nukes, and anchors NATO's southeastern flank. But it also plays both sides, deepening ties with Russia, China, and regional Islamists. Is Turkey a NATO ally or a rogue state inside the alliance? No one wants to answer, because the answer could collapse the pact. US fatigue, European dependency. The US pays roughly 70% of NATO's defense spending. It stations tens of thousands of troops in Europe. It provides the nuclear umbrella, logistics, and most of the high-end capabilities. But American patience is wearing thin. Republican leaders routinely question NATO's value. Donald Trump has suggested pulling out entirely and has already forced European nations to increase military budgets. Even under Biden, tensions simmer. Disagreements over Ukraine strategy, divergence on China policy, burden-sharing disputes that never truly resolve Europe, talks of strategic autonomy. But autonomy without capacity is just rhetoric. If the US pulls back, even partially, NATO's entire deterrence structure could collapse. Eastern Europe is losing faith. Eastern NATO members face daily pressure from Russia. Baltic states fear cyber attacks, airspace violations, and hybrid warfare. Poland has doubled its defense spending and deployed US troops. Finland has joined. Sweden has tried. But eastern states are worried. Will Germany act if Estonia is attacked? Will France send troops to the Polish border? Will the US come if a Russian missile lands in Lithuania? Collective defense only works if everyone believes in it. Right now, belief is fractured, and fractured belief means broken deterrence. The Article 5, Illusion Article 5, has only been invoked once, after 9/11. But what happens if a NATO member is attacked today? Not with tanks, but with malware, with assassinations, with economic sabotage. What counts as an attack? Who decides? The alliance has no clarity, no consensus, and no protocol for gray zone warfare. In an age of AI-driven disinformation and proxy militias, the rules that governed NATO in the Cold War no longer apply, and that uncertainty makes aggression more likely, not less. Internal sabotage, Hungary, politics, and nationalism. Hungary under Viktor Orban routinely blocks NATO statements. It delays aid to Ukraine. It courts China and Russia while undermining European cohesion. This isn't theoretical. It's structural sabotage from inside the alliance. Meanwhile, far-right and far-left populist movements across NATO are growing. Germany's AfD, France's Le Pen, Slovakia's pro-Russian pivot isolationist currents in the US Congress. These aren't fringe actors anymore. They shape elections. They block budgets. They rewrite foreign policy. And in the next crisis, they may paralyze the alliance. Ukraine changed everything. The war in Ukraine was supposed to unite NATO. In many ways it did, but it also exposed ammunition shortages, poor readiness levels, fragile logistics chains, limited industrial capacity. Germany, once a reluctant actor, pledged a massive rearmament, but delays and political infighting persist. France talks of leadership but prefers strategic ambiguity. Eastern states are stepping up, but their resources are limited. And the longer Ukraine bleeds, the more NATO's cohesion is tested. What happens if Ukraine collapses? What if Russia escalates? The questions aren't just military, they're existential. The China factor NATO was never designed to face China. But China is shaping the battlefield. Cyber attacks, satellite warfare, maritime dominance, Belt and Road military ports. China's presence is global. And as NATO debates its future, some members want to pivot to Asia. Others say stay in Europe. This disagreement is strategic fragmentation. One mission, many directions. And the risk? That when the next crisis hits, there's no unified response. What happens if NATO fails? If NATO fractures beyond repair, the consequences are vast. Russia will test the periphery, China will move faster in the Pacific, Iran will act more aggressively, US credibility will evaporate, European defense will fragment into rival blocs. Eastern states may seek unilateral nuclear guarantees. A failed NATO won't be replaced, it will be exploited, and the post-war order will finally end. NATO still exists on paper. It still holds summits, conducts exercises, and releases statements. But alliances don't die from attack. They die from irrelevance, from eroded trust, from internal division, from promises made but never meant. And when the next war comes, if the pact doesn't hold, we will look back at this moment and realize it didn't collapse. It cracked slowly until it broke. This is the Watchtower Report, where strategy meets reality.